Wow.
I am recording. I have to let you all know that. If you don't want to be on camera at all, just keep yourself dark. I really do like to have some people on camera because as a teacher, teaching an empty screen it's just odd, right? I'm used to teaching.
Okay, I just want to do these things real quick with you.
Oops,
Okay.
somebody hasn't unmuted. So I'm going to get started with my whole program. Just a quick thing to tell you about this. So a little vocology, which is voice science, we're going to play in. If you take a tissue and cover your mouth, it creates a back pressure. So when you make sound, when we make sound, most of the sound is just spiraling in our head. But if, and then only, can anybody guess how much gets out of their mouth?
1 second here.
Very little gets out of your mouth. And less than 5% of your voice actually gets out of your mouth. So when you cover your mouth with a tissue and make sound, what happens is the back pressure goes in and it gets all the sound waves to spiral really well, and they spiral down to the source. And then from the source, they spiral out and they spiral down to the source. And when you cover your mouth like this, that back pressure just makes your vocal cords work really efficiently. And it feels amazing. It's one little thing. If I only have a moment to wake up my voice for speech or singing, I do this exercise. Stretching the muscles of the vocal cords is really necessary. So let's get into my program now. And I'm going to pull up a little something here. I want to get rid of that little beep when people come on. Can you hear that beep when they all come on? It goes beep. I'm just looking to get rid of that. Play join and leave sound. I think I just got rid of it. Hopefully that will be gone, because as we know, people aren't on time and I find it annoying. All right, here we go. I'm going to share screen. And I'm going to give you guys a class that is just like I've given classes all over the place. I've given classes to the Voice Foundation, to all the different associations of singing and speech. And I'm going to give you guys the same thing. Now, first off, one thing I would like to use with everybody, so I know some of you were dark, the hand thing, the little reactions that you can give, these are really great for me, because one of the things that I want to be able to ask as we go along is one question. So here's one question. Has anybody ever felt a lump in their throat or tension in the throat area? Is your breath sometimes shallow, sometimes deep, and you're not really sure why that is? So the first thing that I always talk about when I talk about the voice is, why don't we breathe? Why don't we breathe deeply? Why do we hold our breath sometime? What's going on? And the voice is breath. So that's an important thing to know. The voice is breath. So if we hold our breath, it's very hard to speak or sing. It's very problematic. So when we're little kids, we have no problem making a lot of noise, right? We breathe deeply, we can cry, yell, do everything that we would normally do very easily. And then what happens? We start school. And when we start school, I love this picture, it's German school. When we start school, we don't always sit up straight, so the breathing is no longer deep. We become aware of society around us. We have a need to be correct. So that can be problematic for our breathing. Our breathing is going to become pretty shallow, or the kid in the middle may be holding his breath right then. And I have discovered that by 9 years old, a lot of kids cannot breathe deeply. Hi, Costanza. They can't breathe deeply, which is crazy. A 9-year-old, right? And so, and I have to really, really work to get a 9-year-old to breathe deeply. Like we'll have to sit, relax, try to change their nervous system, because the breath is your nervous system. They're completely connected. And one of the cool things about that is you can change your nervous system by your breath. I feel like this needs to be bigger. Yes, Steve, make the slide bigger. Yeah. Bigger. No, why it's coming up so small. There we go. Good.
I'm hearing a kind of banging in the background. I don't know if I'm the only one. It's kind of a gentle boom boom.
That's not with me. A boom boom?
I don't hear a boom boom either.
Okay, then it's me. Sorry, everyone.
That's okay. All right. Okay, so the nervous system. We have 3 nervous systems. The first one is the central nervous system. That's anything we can do consciously. So everybody raise an arm. Put your arm down. You just consciously used your nervous system, your central nervous system. That's the nervous system that we can use to breathe if we choose to. So take a deep breath. Exhale. Most of the time, we don't breathe using our conscious central nervous system. Most of the time, we breathe using our autonomic nervous system. So that's interesting. We can use either nervous system. And the autonomic nervous system is the nervous system that's unconscious. That nervous system, it pumps our heart, it runs our digestion, it circulates our blood, and it breathes for us most of the time, which is very helpful, because if we had to consciously breathe every time we spoke, we would get nothing else done, basically, because I'd have to say, hey, Elia, how are you? Okay, now I'm going to exhale. Hey, Elia, let's go to the store. I have to breathe, I have to exhale. If we had to do that all the time, it would be so time consuming. So fortunately, most of the time our breath is controlled unconsciously. And then let's talk about the 2 parts of this unconscious nervous system. Okay, so we have the sympathetic nervous system, which is fight, flight, or freeze. If somebody rushes at you, you're going to freeze. Men, if they get really close to each other, that's usually how a fight is instigated. Flight is pretty obvious, that feeling of when you want to flee. The sympathetic nervous system loves to activate in performance. Performers all have to deal with their sympathetic nervous system, because it's not uncommon to get nervous, or what we call nervited, which is nervous and excited before performance, or just singing in public. I work with actors, and some of them are great actors, but if they have to sing in front of people, they freeze. They're like, ah. So we don't quite know why singing activates the sympathetic nervous system as much as it does, but we know it does. The other nervous system is the parasympathetic nervous system. That's your rest, digest, deep breathing. You're doing some yoga. And then the third nervous system that we have is the enteric nervous system, which they found a lot about now, which is in the belly, right? That's and that particular nervous system in your belly creates 90% of your serotonin. And even more interesting than that is it can actually override the other two nervous systems. So that's why gut health is so important. And deep breathing is incredibly good for the enteric nervous system. All right. Now, humans and whales are the only creatures on the planet that can control their breathing, which is crazy to think that, but all the other animals cannot consciously control their breathing. You may see your dog looking at the sunset, breathing deeply, and it looks like maybe he's aware of his breath and he's consciously deeping and making the breath deep, but that is not the case. He has no awareness of his breathing. And an interesting thing is that most of the time, we humans breathe unconsciously using the autonomic nervous system. But the interesting thing is our nervous system has behaviors very similar to animals on the planet. So we will react to pain, fear, and any external stimuli exactly the way an animal might. And what does that mean? That means that anytime our body feels unsafe, we may tighten the body. We may hold it, or we may we call armoring it. Armoring are those parts of your body that you consciously hold tension in, that you're aware of. So we may armor the body in places. It's a survival mechanism, it's unconscious. And at the same time, we'll hold our breath. So everybody tighten your body really tight. Do you want to breathe? No, you won't want to breathe because the vocal cords will actually close as you tighten your body. The job of the vocal cords, the first job is as a valve to protect your airways. So when we feel tension, the vocal cords also close. And this is something that happens unconsciously, but some people will build up tension not only in their body, but in their vocal cords. My next is, of course, a whale. They're consciously breathing. I think that's pretty cool. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about the sympathetic nervous system and the fight or flight nervous system. And anytime our body feels some stress, it activates all of these things within the nervous system. It'll cause the adrenal cortex of the body to release stress hormones. As I mentioned, the breathing will stop. The thyroid gland stimulates the whole body's metabolism. The larger muscles in your body will receive more blood to prepare to fight or flee. The smaller muscles will not be as important. So here's some of the effects. Cortisol is released. You can see increased blood pressure, blood sugar is depressed. The immune system will be depressed under stress, under the stress hormone. Adrenaline is released to create fight or flight. The brain gets ready. The liver releases glucose. Your digestion slows or stops. Anybody with digestion issues may look at what's happening in their belly. Urine production slows or stops. Oxygen, nutrients, and blood will flow to the larger muscles in the body so you can get out of there. Muscles of fight or flight, the main ones that will kick in is the jaw. Anybody have a tight jaw? Your jaw may tighten a little bit anytime your body feels stressed in some way. The neck may tighten, the shoulders and arms may tighten, the upper body tightens to actually get ready to push or punch. It's completely unconscious. And the next area is the abdomen. So if I'm a tiger and I'm going to attack a human, I'm going to go for the soft places. I'm going to go for their guts, and I'm going to go for the neck. I am not going to attack them in the back where all the bones are. And then interestingly enough, the psoas muscle in the hips, the psoas muscle shortens and tightens to give energy to your legs to be able to run. That'll affect your hips and your lower back. So we can have all this tension in the body. And the interesting thing is we may not know where it came from. So just getting in a car and driving, your body will get into a little bit of a protection, just a protection posture. Some of these muscles will be ready to go. If somebody swerves towards your car, you're going to tighten, brace, hold everything, and then the car goes away and you shake it off and you keep driving, right? But all day long, we have little tightenings and releases, tightenings and releases, tightening and releases. And this tightening that we have can come from anything that's physically threatening, but this tightening can also come from emotional things. So let's say your mother calls, you know she's going to be annoying. You shouldn't say that. And you go to reach for the phone and you may tighten. It's like tighten things as your jaw as you get the phone. So we're reacting all day long to different things. And this affects the whole body. Why it's important to know is because when we go to sing or speak, we want the whole body completely available and open and relaxed and limber and movable like a jellyfish to hold breath and to hold sound. But the reality is we're all full of tension, all of us. And what I like to say is this is the body's protective system to protect you. So I always say, I call the body the monkey. I always say, don't get mad at the monkey for doing things to protect you. So just thank it. Thank you, body. That's great. All that tension was great. Boy, if a tiger had tried to get me, I would have been protected. But now I got it, and let's let go of all this tension. So I always say, don't get mad at the body. It's just trying to help you. Okay, so the feel-good nervous system, the one we all love, is the parasympathetic nervous system. And the parasympathetic nervous system is the nervous system where our heart rate lowers, our breathing gets slower. Oxytocin is released, so some endorphins are released. It's important. We call usually rest and digest, it's called. It's also involved in all of the things in the bottom, sexual arousal, salivation, lacrimation. If mothers are breastfeeding, they need to go to a nice quiet place to feed their child. All right, let me go down to the next slide. Oh, I skipped one. Yoga breathing, right? That's why yoga is so great. Yoga gets us into our parasympathetic nervous system, gets the breath deep. And then in performance, the interesting thing is we need a combination of both. So that's what makes performing so difficult. In performing, even public speaking, you need some fight or flight because you need to have some heightened energy. I have a little fight or flight kicked in today. It's a class with a lot of people I don't know, but that's great because I'm very excited about that too. So I need
What is it, my dear?
I need a combination of the parasympathetic nervous system so I can breathe deeply while I speak and connect to my core. Yet I need some heightened energy so I'm not really boring, right? If I was really relaxed, you probably wouldn't want to listen to this talk. So you have to have some heightened energy with relaxation. This is really hard for public speakers and for singers to try to have the composure, the relaxation, and the stimulation at the same time. A speech therapist who I love named Joanna Caston, she said they both interact and overlap in complicated ways, and they co-regulate each other. And part of life is finding a mutual equilibrium at both low and high levels of activity, right? Balancing these nervous systems. And then Arthur Lessig, who's a founder of an amazing voice work for actors, he says all muscles are continuously alive and vibrant. And he says in performance, they always should be vibrant, never tight, never dead, always energized. And that's part of some of the work that we're going to do today, is how to have vibrancy in the body. And then Kristen Linklater, who's another famous creator of voice work, she said one must become pleasurably involved with the vibrations experienced during phonation. So in performance, we have to start to love that kind of high that you get when you have to teach or speak in public or sing. And then Rodenberg, she says that balancing all of this puts you in a state of readiness. All right, how's my time? All right, so let's talk for a moment about trauma. Everybody seems to experience some sort of trauma in life. It doesn't seem like we get through life without something happening. I've had a lot of trauma in my life, like my house burned down in Malibu and one of those big fires, a lot of very interesting experiences. What happens when we experience trauma? And trauma affects our voice. So I can always tell someone who's been through trauma and they haven't completely cleared it out of their body, because I can hear it in the voice. And there's many wonderful teachers of somatic experiencing, Stephen Porges, talking about how Vanderkolt, who has a wonderful book about how the body keeps the score, right? The body keeps the score of all the trauma that we have in our life. An amazing way to get rid of trauma is through voice work. So when you open your voice, trauma is often released with the voice. So that's pretty amazing. So I want to talk a little bit about trauma, just as I'm just about finished with this and we'll get into the work. But here is a hyena being attacked by a lion. And the hyena is doing what we call the freeze response. So the hyena is just completely frozen and it's playing dead, and it makes it very heavy for this lion to have to carry it. And what happened actually in this picture, there's a whole video, this lion had this hyena and he dragged it over, and all these other hyenas were running at it saying, "Let go of our friend, let go of our friend." And he dragged it over and they were really annoying him. So he dropped the hyena, and the hyena playing it dead just acts like it's dead. And then he chases after all the hyenas. And while this hyena is just lying there acting dead, to come back to life, it will tremor its whole body. It'll go in through a tremor. It brings vibrancy into the body, and then it's alert and it takes off. It gets out of there. And it lived, which made me so happy. The freeze response. So this is something important for humans to know, because animals in the wild, they will, as I said, they will use the freeze response and play dead. And then when they feel safe, they discharge the stress, often through tremoring, to return to a regulated state. And then they go on their way with no effect on their well-being. So it does not become a traumatic event for them. Interestingly enough, they can discharge the trauma and then go on with life, and they're not affected. Humans, we also freeze under extreme threat. And this shutdown defense strategy is not a voluntary decision. So if you've ever frozen in life, this is not always a voluntary decision. Your body is being subjected to something so fearful that literally we freeze stiff. And the idea is the very same as in the animal kingdom. If we freeze, maybe the animal trying to get us will think that we're dead. We're frozen stiff. This is a very important thing in anybody who's ever been assaulted. And it's now being used in litigation against women who've been assaulted, because a lot of times when women have been assaulted in life, what happens is, I mean, I had a student taking my class, and what happened is she was attacked and she just couldn't move, and she just let the attack happen. And then later she just kept asking herself, why didn't I fight back? Why didn't I fight back? Well, in some situations, the body finds it's smarter to just freeze, get through the assault and survive, as opposed to fighting. So this is a real thing. And now it's being used in litigation regarding the attacks of women, which makes me very happy, because I know a lot of women that have been assaulted, and a lot of women who literally were in the situation of the freeze response and just couldn't really do anything. And it's not their fault. It's not their fault. Okay, now, this is the interesting thing about trauma. We will have a traumatic event, but we don't always have the ability to discharge the traumatic effect afterwards, and we may store it in the body for years. This is what they've discovered now. And that's awful, right? It's awful. So if any of the work today that we do, you feel opens up any emotion or energy that needs to be moved, let it move. We want to free our body from as much as we can. Interestingly enough, in somatic experiencing, they actually use sound. I just took a course in somatic experiencing, and they use sound and the making a sound to get people who've been in a traumatic experience to get back in their body, to feel their body, because people who've suffered trauma a lot of times don't feel their body. And they use this sound of voo, where they go voo, and it's just sound that they use to move the trauma, which is amazing. The vagus nerve, everybody's heard about now. The vagus nerve is a cranium nerve. Let me jump down to that. Here's a little animal playing dead. That's not a dead mouse. Guess what? Dogs even like to do it, right? The vagus nerve is cranial nerve 10. The vagus nerve is the longest nerve in the body. Everybody's very into it right now. Have you guys all heard about the vagus nerve? Some of you, vagus nerve. This vagus nerve, why it's important to me is I work with people, all sorts of people. I work with a lot of people who have had trauma. And when you work with the voice, you end up working with trauma. You just do. An interesting thing is the vagus nerve. We know that the vagus nerve is connected to emotion and how we perceive emotion in the outside world, how we relate. Do we feel comfortable? Do we feel safe? The first place that the vagus nerve, it comes down from the skull, the first place that it innervates this is called the pharyngeal branch. That is the branch that goes to our mouth, inside our mouth, the palate above and the back of the throat. And then the next place that it innervates goes straight into the larynx, and the left recurrent laryngeal branch right here goes to your vocal cords. That, and then I have another picture. I love this photo because it really shows it. Goes right into your mouth and right into your vocal cords. So what happens then? Emotion affects our voice. Have you ever had different people have, you know, I got all choked up when I watched that movie. Sensations of emotion affecting the throat area is really normal. It's not uncommon. Anybody ever had an experience like that? Just watching The Notebook, my friend was telling me the other night that she gets choked up every time and she cries. And as she's telling me, there's all this tension in here. It's a real thing. Getting tension in the throat and in the vocal cords is a real thing due to the innervation of this vagus nerve. The interesting thing about the vagus nerve is that also, you see how it goes into the lungs here? Why? And then it goes to the heart, it goes to every organ. Why it's important that it goes to the lungs is if you are allergic to, let's say, wheat, I mean, out in the, like wheat that's growing, you're allergic to it. And you, every time you get near a wheat field, everything gets tight in here and the throat gets tight. That's very natural. And people with asthma, if they get exposed to an allergen, this all tightens because the body sees it as something that is dangerous. So it's going to close your airways by closing the vocal cords. And it'll also close all these little tubes to protect anything from getting into your lungs. Now, the interesting thing is you could take somebody and drive them by a field that's not wheat, it's some other plant, and the person is not allergic to that plant. But if you tell them it's a wheat field, everything's going to tighten and close up because of the connection to the emotion. So it's a fascinating nerve. So let's talk about breathing. And then I've ended my, what I call my anatomy 101, and we'll get into the book. So all of our nervous system affects our breathing. How are you breathing right now? Most of you are home, so most of you are probably breathing deeply, abdominally, but some of you may be stressed about something and the breath may be higher up in your chest. Just notice where your breath is. The actual act of breathing, when we breathe, a nerve up in your, actually in your neck, it's actually in your second vertebrae. So if you break your neck, most people will need a respirator if they break C2. Anyway, so what happens is every time we breathe, we have this diaphragm. That's a smooth muscle that is like a basketball if you cut it out and you put it inside a body. And the diaphragm, it lines the 6 ribs in the side of your body. And here it's showing it coming out of the rib cage. It does not come out of the rib cage. It's actually higher. This is not exactly quite right. But why I wanted to show you this picture is you see the big psoas muscle. If you look at the one on the right, the psoas muscle comes up and connects back into the diaphragm. So tight hips can affect your breathing. Who would think, right? If your breathing's affected, your voice is affected. So I wanted to show that video. And then the act of breathing is the air comes in, your diaphragm will actually literally lower. That's the first impulse of breathing. The diaphragm lowers, the lungs feel like partially empty then, and the lungs desire to be filled with air at all time. So the diaphragm lowers, and when the diaphragm lowers, we inhale. And then once we inhale, the diaphragm has an impulse to go back on the picture on the right to go back to its original position, which then the lungs feel crowded and we exhale air. And this is happening unconsciously all the time, which is good because I talked about how we don't really want to feel it. The lungs, this is a more accurate depiction about where the diaphragm is. The diaphragm, if we, let's say, want to speak and we need a lot of breath, maybe our sentences are long, like the way I'm using my voice right now. If I were not to take a nice deep breath, which this is a deep diaphragmatic breath, I would not have much breath to speak on because the diaphragm, diaphragm would be up. Want that diaphragm to lower. When the diaphragm lowers, see how the rib cage gets bigger? The rib cage gets bigger and your belly comes out. It didn't really show the belly coming out, but your belly comes out here. And then the belly goes back in. And then one last thing. We speak and sing from the diaphragm. Everybody's probably heard that, right? So that beautiful muscle that I just showed you, the diaphragm that sits up here, breast level, you can't feel it. There's no nerve endings on it, which is difficult. So how are we going to speak or sing from the diaphragm? So I'm going to stop the share here and I'll pop back onto that muscle for a second. So how are we going to? What we're going to do, just going to spotlight my video. What we're going to do, let's first find out where the diaphragm is. So we can feel the diaphragm, it's by its effects in other parts of the body, but most of the time we can't feel it all. So if you walk your fingers down your breastbone, you'll find a little shape right here. And if you put your hands here, and if you pant like a puppy, you'll probably feel some moving out. Do you guys all feel that? Now, if you lean to the side and pant, you're going to feel it pushing out on the sides of your ribs. Do you guys all feel that? Good. Then if you lean to the other side, once again, you should feel it pushing out on the ribs because it's lining your sixth ribs here. Then, if you lean forward and put your hands here, you should feel some movement because it's also connected in the back. And that's the most you can feel the diaphragm. So you're really feeling the effects of the diaphragm on the rest of the body. I'm gonna have a little water. Everybody should have water nearby. Now, for voice work, we need to breathe where the belly releases and there's some movement in the bottom of the ribs. We need to breathe here. The reason why is we have to remember the voice is really breath that gets transformed into sound waves here. So when you breathe from the belly, that's the deepest diaphragmatic breath when you feel your belly come out. And when you get your deepest diaphragmatic breath, then you have plenty of lung volume to use. Put your hands on your waist. You may feel some expansion at your waist when you breathe. So as the diaphragm lowers, everything below your diaphragm is in a bag of water. It's kind of weird to imagine that, a bag of water, but it's just in a bag of water. So when you breathe, I'm gonna stand up. The diaphragm is lowering and it's just displacing all your abdominal organs. That's great because the deep breathing actually massages all your organs. So notice For most people, because this is a cutout area here, for most people, this area will move out. But you may have some expansion here, depending on the length of your torso. And you may have some expansion in the back. I don't have a lot because my rib cage comes really low and the top of my hips are quite high. Notice what we call the 10th rib, which is the bottom rib. Notice that that rib moves. That's pretty cool. I love that sensation. There's been a big discussion for about 200 years whether people should breathe first with their ribs or first with their bellies. And you really want both. In voice science, we found that both happen simultaneously. If you just rib swing breathe, you might pull your belly in. So first thing that you have to do is you must soften your belly. You must soften your belly. And then you can think rib swing first if the belly's soft, or belly must come out first. But you do want some movement of the bottom ribs. And some people have no flexibility here. Some people's bodies are really tight. So the exercises that we're going to get into will loosen that up. But the first thing that I want to start with is my favorite way to teach people how to take a deep diaphragmatic breath from yoga. So we're going to use mudras. Mudras are hand symbols. And these particular symbols have been used in yoga forever. And these are called the breathing mudras. So the first thing I want you to do is put your hands in chin mudra. That's the one where you see everybody when they're meditating with their thumbs and their fingers together. Put your hands like that, just put them down on your knees and take a breath. And notice where your breath goes. Did you guys feel your breath deep? Yes? Victoria, did you feel your breath deep? Okay, now we're going to do Adi Mudra. So Adi Mudra, you take your thumb and put your hands over your finger. Put your hands down. It's like you've made a fist, but the thumb's inside. Put your hands down and breathe. Take a really big breath. Notice, where does your breath go? Where did you guys feel it? Most people feel it up here in your upper chest. So I've taught breathing for 40 years. And the hardest thing is to get people to breathe deeply. But when you use this particular mudra, we're using meridians. And this is actually lungs and intestines. So put your breath deep into your belly. And this is the best way. I love this for teaching, speaking or singing, because we need to breathe abdominally and from the bottom ribs, right? Rib swing and belly breath. And this does that to you. Now, when singing, we use this particular breath. And then we're going to do Chinmaya, where you're going to bring your fingers in, put these together, and take a breath. And this usually creates the breath coming into the middle more rib swing. So if I need more rib swing, which would be sorry, I have to mute somebody. More rib swing. Like that. You guys feel that? You guys feel that in the, if I'm going to have to belt really high, where I need a lot of lung volume, I will rib swing, a belly release and rib swing. But this will really expand this part of my body. Hey! So I can yell or belt loudly. Gives you more lung volume, literally. And then one more important thing to know before we jump into the work is oh my goodness, hang on a minute, didn't work. I want to show you a muscle. I want to show you the transverse abdominis muscle. Has anybody heard of the transverse abdominal muscle? The transverse abdominal muscle, I'm just going to show you physically. So we do want to breathe and sing from the diaphragm, but we have a problem. We can't feel it. So what are we going to do? Fortunately, the deepest abdominal layer that we have, called the transverse abdominis, it actually runs this way, all the way down to the pubic bone, comes around, runs through here, comes through the back and attaches to the spine. It's a corset muscle. And this particular corset is the muscle where if you put your hands at your waist, everybody do this, and imagine that, oh, my waist is so tiny. It actually squeezes your waist in and it lifts your chest, opening your lungs. So fortunately, if we engage the transverse, if we engage this deep abdominal muscle, we can actually engage the diaphragm, but we're engaging it from underneath. Fortunately, the transverse that comes up actually has fingers that interdigitate with the diaphragm. So here you have your diaphragm, got the transverse running along, comes in and it connects in. So here we have a diaphragm that's connected to really the whole abdominal cavity if we engage the abs. And if we engage the abs, also the legs are engaged, the psoas muscle, which hooks in. So this whole core ends up being involved in speaking and singing. And that's a lot of muscles, right? So what I want to do right now is start to play with the work. And we're going to do some yoga things. First off, this is a really good place for me to see if there's any questions. So I just gave you a long lecture. Jennifer's having a lightning storm. Does anybody have a question? You can just unmute yourself and ask me or put it in the chat. It's a lot. You guys ready to get down on the floor? Everybody ready to get down on the floor? All right. Let's get down on the floor. Let's see it now. With my cats. Yes, I've only prepared 70 pages of material, so I hope that's okay. No, we're not going to do 70 pages of material. But these are all things that are coming out in my next book, which will be Vocal Yoga, the Asanas. Not want to get off the floor. All right, so first off, can everybody hear me? You can turn my hello. Hello.
Heather, you're muted.
Hello. Hello. There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, please let me know. Because I'm. Hello. 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 Okay, that should be good. All right. I'm gonna figure out. This is trying to spotlight myself, but I also want to see all of you. All right. So we're going to come down on the ground. Just tilt this a little lower. Yeah. All right. So the first thing, so vocal yoga class, I'm going to try to really work through different parts of the body. And we're going to play with some different sounds. But before we do that, the very first thing that I always like to start out with is just some sort of opening invocation. If you're going to lead a class, the Gayatri mantra is great, or just some ohms. And I'm going to do 3 long ohms. So let's all do these together. So breathe through your nose, put your hands in chin mudra so that you get the breath to drop to the belly. Close your eyes. Om. Om. And as you make sound, your abs should have been moving in slowly. And then if you release your abs, you can get the breath to return back abdominally. So that's a very important thing in sounding. Let's start with some things for the head, the jaw, the throat. So remember when I talked about fight or flight muscles, the jaw is a major fight or flight muscle, the neck is a major fight or flight muscle, and even the tongue can be involved in fight or flight. So also these 3 areas all have connections directly into the hyoid bone, which is a little bone here that the larynx hangs from, and the larynx. So we never want for singing or speech a tight tongue, a tight jaw, or a tight skull. Right back here behind your skull, right where this bone is, there's a little process that hangs here that has 3 muscles that come down. It's called the stylohyoid process. The stylo process, it's got an attachment to the hyoid bone, which makes it the stylohyoid. It's got an attachment to the back of the larynx and an attachment into the tongue. So we don't want a tight skull. So we're going to do some things for the head and the neck. So what's very nice to do is just start, hang your head to the side, put your hand here. And this is vocal yogas, and we have discovered that humming is amazing for the body. So we're actually going to just hum into the tension. And if you actually put your hand on the back of your neck, you will notice that there is indeed vibration there. Take your hand and bring your head up gently. Go to the other side. Rest your hand on top of your head. And then hum. Hum into any of the tension. And then we're going to do some easy head rolls with humming. Hmm. 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 Feels really nice with the humming, doesn't it? It also calms your vagus nerve, which is on the right side. So if you ever feel tense, you can always put your hand on the right side of your neck and hum. Hmm. And it'll calm the vagus nerve, slow down your nervous system, put it in parasympathetic. This next exercise that I use, and I also use a lot of myofascial stretches. So this particular exercise I learned from a speech therapist. Put your hand here, and you're going to take your other hand, and this hand is just going to sit here, but the other hand is going to pull down on the hand underneath and stretch the tissue. By stretching the tissue of the neck, you are stretching the fascia. So we're going to put this hand here, take the top hand, and you can hum once again gently, but pull down slowly. Hmm. 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 Remember, I'm using my top hand. This feels amazing. This is also getting into my jaw because this big muscle in front that I'm stretching, along with all the neck muscles, is called the platysma. And this particular muscle has a connection that goes all the way up into the jaw. And a lot of times people with jaw issues, it's really platysma tension here in the neck. Let's do the other side. Put your hand here. Put your hand on top. You can hum or not hum with this one. This exercise can be quite intense. So just put your hand here, and then you're going to use your top one. And just the weight initially can sometimes be enough to make a big stretch in your sternocleidomastoid, this big muscle, or your strap muscles here, the scalenes. But if you slowly come down, it feels absolutely amazing. Do you guys feel that? Sliding. And if anybody has a question, just pop on and ask me. I want to come all the way down into the clavicle here because that is the end of the connection of the sternocleidomastoid and a lot of the scalenes actually in there. So I always do some fascia work, some sort of head releases with humming, and then we have to get into the jaw, right? So to everybody, drop your chin. And if you can see my cheeks here, I kind of have prominent cheeks. You can see here, right below the cheekbone, if you press in, and right above the jawbone, that is the masseter muscle. And that muscle is a major fight or flight muscle, and it's the strongest muscle in the body. Why? For when we were cavemen, to eat raw meat and also to bite people. So it can hold a lot of tension. You want to massage that. It feels really great to actually use your knuckles in there. I'll have one day where my jaw's not sore at all, and then I'll have another day and I'll have a slow, sore jaw. And then it's also really nice to do this where you draw down. And then what I do is I actually, if my hands are clean, I stick my finger in. Chiropractors often do this. And I'll put my finger in. And between my back top molar and bottom molar, if you reach straight back, there's a little flesh. If you press into that, that gets into the pterygoid muscles, which are underneath the masseter muscle, and they can be major places of tension. So I love to do this. It's often sore in there, but taking care of your jaw is an important thing. A lot of us have a lot of tension in the jaw, and a lot of us grind our teeth at night. And then the tongue, right? So we're going to do some tongue circles to relax our tongue. And I like to make sound when I do tongue circles. I just go like, Now, as you go running your tongue circles, notice if there's any place where your tongue feels tight. And if there is, stop. Move on after it relaxes. And then let's all stick our tongue out really far, and we're going to make sound. This is great for sounding trauma out of the body. I think everybody should do this exercise every day. And it's really fun to do in your car because of the vibration of the metal. So you stick your tongue out really far. This is called lion pose in yoga. Stick your tongue out really far. You look up to your third eye, and you make a raw primal sound as loud as you can. So we're going to breathe from the belly. And go into your outer breath. Let's all do it again. Really let everything out. You're cleaning out any stuff that's stuck in the body. Okay, breath. And it feels pretty great. That feel good, everybody? I love that. We are not loud enough overall. At the National Center of Voice and Speech, Ingo Tietze is the head teacher there. He's one of my mentors also. And he wrote a paper about calling, that the voice was made for calling across fields, and that we don't use our voices enough. And by not using our voices enough, the muscles get weak. And old person voice, a person does not have to get if they use the muscles of the voice, right? We think that when we get old, our voice is going to get all weak and sound like this. And it's completely not necessary. And we also need to use our voice at a higher volume, a little bit every day. So if you yell for your kids in your house, that's a good thing. Have a sip of tea. Oh, and my very favorite things, this is in my book, my current book that's out, Vocal Yoga. All these exercises, a lot of them are in it. The tongue stretch, or actually, we're going to do, stick your tongue out, stick it under your bottom teeth, then bite on it. And just hang out. Just let that relax. Picture me doing these in my book. It was the first page that a friend of mine opened up in the book when I gave him a copy, and he laughed really hard. Then we're going to do it against the top teeth. So stick your tongue out, roll it against the top teeth, and then bite on it. And this gets an incredible stretch all the way down to the larynx and this little hyoid bone I was talking about. Afterwards, go. You can do with Spanish R. If you can do some D's. Getting the tongue moving. It'll help with your articulation skills, and it releases tension. Tension. Do we have any singers here in the group? For singers, as we get higher up the scale, the tongue likes to tighten. And if it tightens, it will create tension that will go all the way down to the vocal cords, and then it'll be difficult to get the high note. And then the very last thing is for the head to relax that muscle that goes from here, is you're going to draw with your nose a little infinity symbol, which is an 8 on its side. And you'll feel a release down right back in here. That one's really nice to do with a little humming too. All right, so we're going to come down and to our mat. Having a little allergy. Okay, down in our mat, we're going to do some cat-cows, and we're going to do the cow part a little differently. So a lot of times people have their feet down and they really sink their belly and they raise their head. I don't want you to do that. What I want you to do is we're going to tuck our toes under, and you're going to reach your tailbone away from you and your head forward, which creates a really nice stretch in the spine. So that is going to be our cow. And then when we go to cat, we'll put our feet down and we will arch up. Now we're going to have some sounds that go with this. So the first thing we're going to do, come into cow and inhale. And then when you go into cat, make an SH sound, a shh. So then you're going to arch up, shh. And then you come back down. What I want you to do is when you make the sh sound, I want you to feel the abdominal muscles engage. So that beautiful transverse abdominal muscle that we have deep in our body, when we let the belly come out because the diaphragm lowers, if we make a sound like a sh, you'll feel a slight activation of your transverse abdominis, and that activates your diaphragm actually from underneath. So what I want you to do is I want you to use your breath, the length of your breath to how much you come up into a cat. So however long it takes you to breathe, go all the way to exhalation and bring the belly all the way into the spine. And when you're out of breath, and which would be out of sound, stop. So we'll do that again. So we're going to inhale, reach your butt away from your head. Start with a sh, and let that, the length of your breath, let that create the length of your arch. So, sh. Inhale back up. Now we're going to change the sound to je, as in je suis in French or genre in English. So inhale. Je. Inhale. 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 Since you're on your hands and knees, I want you to notice what happens when you inhale. You should feel your belly fall to the ground. So earlier I mentioned it's really important to have a relaxed belly to allow the diaphragm to lower. And in this posture, your belly should be relaxed. There's no reason to hold it in, right? And then as the sound is made, you should feel it coming from your belly. So let's play with some sounds. Let's play with some animal sounds. First, we're going to make a dog. So let the belly fall to the ground. Woof, 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 woof. I bet most of you felt your belly kick in. I use animal sounds because I found that they naturally connect to the core, and we want to get everybody to stop speaking and singing, engaging the muscles of the throat. There's nothing in the throat that you want to engage aside from two little vocal cords, which are very small. So let's try a dog again. Woof, 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 woof. Let's be a little tiny dog. Woof, 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 woof. Big dog. Woof, 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 woof. Let's try being a chicken. When you breathe, just release your belly to the floor. Let's try a crow. Caw, 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 caw. Let's try a monkey. I think you probably felt your abdominal muscles contracting. Did everybody feel that? So when we speak, we are supposed to be speaking from here or singing from here. And the reason why is if we think that the voice is only breath, when we inhale with a nice deep breath, the breath feels like it's here. It isn't here, but when this area, the big ball of water down here, that's our belly, when that's expanded, then when we engage the abdominal muscles, it creates this inter-abdominal pressure that exerts a force up against the diaphragm. So I like to think that this is the first place where I sense breath, and then that is where I want to engage my exhalation from. And speech and singing That is exhalation. It's a voiced exhalation. So I can take a breath and just exhale. Or I can take a breath. That is still breath being exhaled, but it's been slowed way down because the vocal cords close and they obstruct it slightly. And if anybody does ujjayi breathing, it's the same principle where the vocal cords are slightly closed. And by closing the breath coming up, it elongates our exhalation. So singing physiologically is elongating or extending exhalation. That's really what we're doing physiologically. Okay, so let's move on to some exercises. The first things that we're doing are to get you to hook up to the core. We only speak from the core when we're little kids. We breathe from the core and we speak from the core. We don't know how to do anything else. We don't know how to talk. We don't know how to talk from the throat and engage the throat area. And by engaging the abs and learning to speak mechanically the way we're supposed to speak or sing, it also frees up the throat chakra to allow you to move any sort of trauma through your body. So that's a very cool thing. All right, so let's move on to the next exercise. So we're going to come down into, we're going to do cobra or sphinx, depending on your back. So we're going to go down into that. Okay, so we're going to come down. And I'm going to show you some different versions of cobra. So all the way down is sphinx. That's when you're on your forearms. And then cobra, there's different versions. A traditional cobra, you have your hands underside, on each side under your shoulders, and you push into your hands and you come up this way, right? But this can be quite hard for people. And in a lot of these exercises that I'm showing you, we want to be able to hang out for quite a while and play with our voice. Because we're playing with our voice, we may want to make this easier. I think I do, because you can probably hear my voice is starting to shake a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk my hands forward, and I may even walk my hands all the way out into more of a V shape. And depending on everybody's back, this is comfortable for some. And if it's not comfortable for you to be more in a shape where your hands are spread out, and you can even come out to the side a little bit, whatever's comfortable for you. And you don't even have to do this, you can be all the way down. But these particular variations I'm showing you are yoga therapy variations that we used in yoga therapy. And I actually love them. So what we're going to do, so Cobra, Bhujangasana, it's so great because it stretches the whole front of your body, the whole front, all of the fascia, all the way, from the tongue, all the way to the toes, if I point my toes. From here, now that the whole front core of the body is stretched, let's play with some animal sounds. Let's do some, and as I said, you can be down here, totally fine. Let's do some dogs. And even if you can't be here, you can be all the way down with your hands crossed and your head on your forearms, right? But I'm gonna go back up into Bhujangasana because I like it. Feel free, whatever's comfortable. This is not about the posture as much as about what we're going to do now. So now that we're in this posture, I'm going to play with some animal sounds. My transverse abdominis, which is the front of my abs, is really stretched right now. So I'm gonna make some dog barks. Woof, 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 woof. Woof, 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 woof. It's pretty clear what muscle is engaging. It's pretty clear that my transverse abdominis, that corset muscle that runs down the front of the body, is being kicked in. Come down on my forearms because I've been up there for a while. Let's do some. And if you're not from the US, whatever your chicken sound is, make that chicken sound. Also, you may feel it in different parts of your transverse, each sound you make, which is interesting, and that's completely fine. We were talking about tension, and we all hold tension in different parts of our abdomen. Who would think, right? So let's do some monkeys. And while you're doing some hoo-hoos and hee-hees, notice, does the left side of your body quiver more from the sound? Or is it more the right side of your body that is quivering from the sound? Just notice that. There's no right or wrong. It's just interesting. Crows. Caw, 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 caw. Then we can play with some language. Let's play with some Fs. As in father, fa, 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 father, father, father. You may notice, wow, your voice is coming from your abs and it sounds different. Let's make some Ps. Papa, papa, papa. Hopefully you'll have the sensation that the sound comes from your belly and shoots out your mouth. And do come down anytime you need to. Come down and rest. Or come back up. Let's play with some other words. Let's play with some W's. W's, you need to round your lips. Woof, woof. That's why woof works really well. Woof, woof, woof to engage the core. Round your lips, woof, woof. And we're going to do the whats and the wheres. So we'll be woof, woof, what? Woof, woof, what? Woof, woof, where? Woof, woof, where? Try why now. Woof, woof, why? Woof, woof, why? Let's do what again? Woof, woof, what? Woof, woof, woof. I'm doing woof, woof, but the last one I just did woof, woof, and I actually use that in my classes a lot. I'll have people do woof, woof, and then why. Let's do woof, woof, why, woof, woof, where, and woof, woof, what, okay? Woof, woof, why? Woof, woof, where? Of course, you're breathing in there. Woof, woof, why? Woof, woof, where? Woof, woof, when? Woof, woof. Feels amazing, right? You're working your abs in all these different ways. You can use, I'm gonna come up. You can use so many different sounds. So actually what I should be doing here, which I didn't, is come back into child's pose. Anytime you do an arch, you want to curl up afterwards, put your big toes together and come back. You can separate your knees to whatever distance is good for you. And then just stretch out. You were in an arch for quite a while, so you want to anecdote that arch by coming into Balasana, child's pose. And when you're in child's pose, a really delicious thing to do is to make some M sounds. So while you're down there, I want you to make some sounds. I want you to hum for a moment and then go Mayo, 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 Mayo. And the fun thing about being down and humming is in voice work, the beauty actually of our tone is made by humming in what we call it's called a lot of things, the pyramid of sound, the mask area, the top of the head. When we hum into this part of the face, all the sound waves inside our head go to all of the sweet spots, especially forward, and create beautiful tone and beautiful resonance. So try that while you're down, just hum mio mio. And notice that sensation. And then there are some kriyas. Kriyas mean cleansing exercises. There's some beautiful kriyas that are used where you hum and then you you take the sound down to your tailbone and then you bring the sound from the tailbone out, up, and out your crown chakra or your third eye. You can come around your head to your third eye. And with this, I like to use the sound whoop, whoop. So the sound, after doing some humming, meo, 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 then you're going to start with a low note with a whoa, with rounded lips, and you're going to take the sound whoa out your head, but you're going to do it in child's pose. So come back into child's pose. If you can't do child's pose easily, you can, first of all, you don't have to come all the way down. You can be like this. And you can also roll a blanket and put it under here. But you can be this way or all the way down. And I want you to start sound at a low pitch from here. Whoa. That made my gong go off. Can send the sound all the way up and out through your head on the whoop. The P is nice. Whoa. To stop sounding. This is actually a speech therapy exercise if anybody works in that field, and I love it for sounding. It's just lovely. Do a couple of those. Whoa. 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 And that particular exercise can actually make you feel quite stoned because you're moving a lot of energy through the spine. You're raising a lot of what we call kundalini. Now, I do not believe that the chakras, this is my belief, I do not believe that the chakras could have been created if yogis were not using sound. And we know that they were using a lot of sounding exercises all the way back in the Upanishads and in the Vedas. There are a lot of chants. The Gayatri Mantra, if anybody's familiar with the Gayatri Mantra is all throughout the Upanishads, which is very interesting, I think. Any questions thus far? Anybody? Everybody's so quiet. Okay, I'm going to move on to.
I have a mini question,
Yes, please.
which is when we were doing the whoa, we just get higher and then we go, Woo! Is that
Yeah.
right?
Right. Yeah, the P will just make it explode.
Got it.
Yeah. And you can do crown chakra, or actually in Balasana and Child's Pose, it's really nice to have it come out the third eye, actually. You can really have that sensation. And even so, and you can engage also your first chakra in that pose, and we're going to do that in some other poses, because naturally, as we go up the scale, the bottom of our torso is a diaphragm. We've got this diaphragm and this diaphragm. And as we get higher, it's very natural for this diaphragm to lift some. And that creates, it lifts up, and that creates a pressure up against this diaphragm. If you're really tuned into your body, you can feel that when this diaphragm lowers, that this one flattens and lowers. And then when you exhale, this one comes up a little and this one comes back up. And I can feel, like I said, I can't actually feel this diaphragm, but I can feel the diaphragm more. And we can have conscious control over our pelvic diaphragm by lifting it, Kegel exercises and different things, which is very good for the root chakra. Okay, I want to go into looking at my class list here. I want to go into a seated twist. So I love a seated twist. A seated twist, I actually can do in a chair or not in a chair. A seated twist is really effective in showing the effects of vocal yoga. And this was one of the first things I discovered that changed my voice. So, and notice as we're going through class, if your voice is changing in any way. Is the resonance changing? Is it feeling more open? Is your breath feeling more dropped in? So in the seated twist, you can sit just in Sukhasana, you can sit in half lotus, whatever works for you. And this is a normal twist we're going to do, but we're going to do it a little differently in that you're going to use your voice. And I want you to use a strong calling sound. And the sound we're going to use is wah. Wah, like waguru, wah. The reason why wah and not ha is ah or ha, ah or ha. I don't use any of those exercises. I don't use any open vowel exercises unless I'm with really advanced students for singing, for example, because what I discover if I'm going to sing and teach them ah, that's what they'll do. They'll do what's called a glottal stroke. Ah, and we don't want that. We want the sound connected to the core. And the W does that great. So wah, we're going to start with a wah. So take your right hand, put it on your left knee, reach your left hand behind you as far as it can go, comfortably without straining. And then just before you twist, sing a wah, make a wah. Wah. And how did that feel? Just notice that. Now what's going to happen, this really wrings out our core of any tension. We're going to reach up with your spine and keep your head moving and in alignment with the spine. Don't turn or twist your head. Okay, so we'll start with the wah, lengthen the spine. Wah, and then start to twist and hold out wah as long as you can. Wah. Stop if you need to breathe again. Wah. Lengthen as you come out. Really try to wring out your core. So twist as far as you can, but do watch your back. Always we want to be safe with the back. Okay, so Let's go again. Lift up the spine, take a breath. Lift up and come out. Let's do the other side. Your right hand, left hand, sorry, right knee. Walk around. Breath. Lift up. Wow. Come out a little. Wow. And then reach up and come out. Let's do one more time. Left hand, right knee, right hand behind you. Inhale, reach up with the spine. Lift up and reach out. Two things that people say in response to this exercise. Some people will find that their voice gets richer after they twist, and then some people will find that their breath just kept, they feel like the breath just kept going on and on and on and on and on. I hope you guys had an experience something like that. Okay, so just shake everything. And how's everybody doing? Good? I'm probably just going to keep going, or if anybody needs a break. Anybody need a quick break, bathroom break or anything? Yes, hold your hand up if you need a quick break and we can, yeah. Okay, we're going to take a 5-minute break and then we'll come back and we'll do some standing poses. If you guys like those poses so far? Oh, I got a thumbs up. We'll take a short break. I'm back. Okay. This is a really fun exercise. That's actually from Pilates that I love. That's called roll like a ball. And what you do is you put your feet together. You're on your sit bones. You roll back just to your shoulder blades. And then you come back up. And you come back up by means of using the transverse abdominal muscle. So that is the muscle that, if you take Pilates, that's what they're very interested in training. Interestingly enough, it's also the major muscle of exhalation. And since we're doing sounded exhalations, we're going to kick it in. Now, this is fun to do because I discovered that if you do a whoop, going from a low pitch, whoa, to a high pitch, it really kicks in the transverse a lot, and it actually helps you roll up. So what we're going to do is going to roll back, whoop, and make a whoop. And you come up really fast by engaging your abs. It's really fun. You don't really need to hold on a whole lot. Whoa! Let me roll back to your shoulder blades. Don't do this. It's not that. Although you could, but this particular exercise is designed that way. So we're just going to our shoulder blades. Whoa! So you inhale as you go back. Whoa! And then you can even come into boat pose. And boat pose is super fun to do with lip buzzes. That's a super fun thing to do. So there's a couple of core activation yoga poses that are really great. Now, while we're doing all of this sounding, I'm noticing my voice is changing, and hopefully you're also noticing vibration in the body, right? Vibration in the body, because I always like to say, we've got our best sound healing tool with us at all times. It's our voice. Okay, so we're going to move on. Oh, we're going to go into downward dog. And in downward facing dog pose. In this pose, I actually love to do it at a wall. I don't have a whole lot of wall here, but there is a little bit over here. Tiny bit of wall. The reason why at a wall is if you're at a wall, you can actually, this helps support your body and you can hang out longer. So you would come on your hands and knees and come into downward dog and put your heels against the wall and press back. And it's really a nice way to do downward dog where you have support, but you don't have to use a wall. But here, what we're going to play with is we're going to play with some sounds coming from the tailbone, going through the spine, out the head, and out the crown chakra. So we're actually doing a chakra cleansing exercise, even though it looks like we're saying whoop. And an interesting thing, I want you to check out your root chakra when you say whoop as you go higher. You may notice that it engages. All right, so let's come on our hands and knees. Tuck your toes under, spread your hands. Most of the weight you want between the thumb and the pointer finger. Come up. You could walk your dog for a minute. And just let some sound down on exhalation. And then once you're here, what I want you to do is you're going to start with a low whoa, 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 whoa. And imagine the sound going through your spine and coming out the top of your head, right? And you can also, in that posture, you can also lift the pelvic floor at the start of the sound. So I'm a downward dog. I'm going to breathe into my belly. Also in this pose, notice where your breath goes. It also comes to the butt, the lower back, the pelvic floor. And then when it comes to my pelvic floor, the breath, whoop, I'm going to do some fast whoops where I just lift the pelvic floor quickly. Whoop. Then I'm going to do some slow ones. Whoa, 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 and you can play. I was actually doing sounds like somebody else was doing it with me, which was really fun. Sounds are coming. I can literally feel the sound vibrating the parts of my body. And that is my goal with a lot of this work. Although it is incredibly wonderful for the voice, I'm also really opening up my body. As that sound came up here and got to this part of my back was actually quite sore yesterday right here. I felt that sound just go right in there and really give me a massage. It was like a vibration massage. And then the sound came up and came out. I don't know if any of you felt that. You might have felt it a little bit or a lot. One of the cool things that I do is I also work with tuning forks. And I know a lot of people that are sound healers, and there was a big sound healing conference, and one of my friends from India, who's Austrian, but he's been in India for a very long time. The result, the decision that was made at this conference is that the ohm, 136.1 hertz, which they actually call it Earth, that is the best tuning fork for sensation in the body. We happen to know that all the bones of the body vibrate, but the cells, I'm sure, vibrate. And my background is through the Sri Aurobindo ashram, Aurobindo, I shouldn't rush that, in India. And the avatar of the ashram believed that we could vibrate things all the way down. We can vibrate all the way down to a cellular level. And so in that particular pose, why I'm stopped for a minute is that this is a great pose to do with someone else and use a tuning fork right at their tailbone. So if I were to bend over and I'm doing this with my students, what I'll do is I'll put the tuning fork there. And we actually move through the spine because a lot of times when we're starting to sense vibration in the body, often we don't sense it that much. So if everybody puts their hands on their chest and just hums ma, feel the bones vibrating, right? Not everybody does. So what I do is I actually use the tuning fork, and there's different chakra sounds. Like here we have here's my bowls. Here's my had to get the activator. So we have sound healing bowls, which are wonderful. My favorite thing to do is actually to sing inside a bowl. Ooh. Activated my gong again, but we have these wonderful sound healing bowls. And you will feel them vibrating the bones of your body. This is my big one, which you guys can see, is a C. And if any of you have singing bowls, I really recommend singing with them, because singing with them will really help you tune into your resonance potential. So they're really wonderful. This is a C. And one thing I wanted to mention about chakras is all of the things that you read in yoga were created for men. Women weren't allowed to practice yoga until later on, and mostly in the tantric part of yoga. So that's a C. So everybody, let's hum that pitch. If you're women, hum this pitch. And if you're men, hum this pitch as well. Men, it's going to be, it's going to be a low pitch. For us, that's a C, and a C for us actually activates our heart chakra. But any of the actual books that I've read on chakras, things that I've seen online, everything has C as a root chakra activator. And in women, it won't be a root chakra activator because it is too high of a pitch. Lower pitches activate with our root chakra, and more for us, an F or a G. And I found in my yoga research that it said that, well, women aren't going to feel the same pitches as men, and that women could start on an F or a G. I actually found that, and I wish I had written down the source. I do a lot of research, and I'm really bummed I didn't write down that source, because that's important to know. So if you do sound bowl work, get yourself some G's and or F's, and rethink the way you're using your bowls for women. A lot of women love to go to sound baths, but they may not be feeling what you intend for them to feel. So that's just something I wanted to stop and say. Let's move on. Let's do some standing poses. Okay, these are some of my favorites. And once again, you can use a wall if you want. You can use, we're doing a downward dog series, and it's quite nice to have a foot against the wall. But I am going to do it right out here so you guys can all see me easily. I have to adjust this computer a little bit. All right. So take your mat and put it in a position that'll be comfortable for you for standing. And the first thing we're going to do is you stand in the center of your mat. Step your feet pretty far apart. Whatever's comfortable for you, though, always. Turn your right foot to the right. Usually, we talk about the heel going to the center of the back foot. And then we're going to come into a warrior two. And in this pose, before you come back up, before you go into it, what we are going to explore now is the psoas muscle and the pelvic floor and its relationship to your voice. And how does it change your voice if you open up this area? So we're going to come into it. First thing we're going to do is we're going to use some woes. So you're going to come in and you're going to stretch your legs apart, away from each other. Whoa, 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 and make some low sounds that would activate your root chakra. Whoa, 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 whoa. My voice is not very low, so your low sounds may be quite different. Whoa, 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 whoa. So let's try that again. Come out. Whoa, 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 whoa. Come back up. Then the next time we're going to come out, we're going to do a little series. We're going to go whoa, 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 whoa. Then bring your elbow down to here. And you're going to take this arm, you're going to swing it 3 times. And you're going to say whoop. So you're going to come down, you're going to go whoa, and only go as far as it goes comfortably. Whoa, and then whoa. Each time you'll notice the arm goes more. Whoa, then stay and do some whoops from your left foot all the way out your hand. Whoa, whoa. Whoa, oops, sorry, I fell out of that one. And then feet apart. Once again, if you fell out of yours as I did. And then come back up. And this time we're going to do exalted warrior, which is where you go back. This is an amazing stretch for the rib cage. And here we're just going to make some whoa, whoa, whoa sounds, thinking about putting the sound here. Whoa, 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 whoa. Then come back here. We'll come down. We're going to do whoops. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Come back up. Back in exalted warrior. Whoa, 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 whoa. And come back up. Bring your right foot in. Let's do the other side. It's actually quite unusual to watch myself and do this. That was interesting. It's good to have what we call dristi with any sort of poses, which is where you're focusing. Having myself as the dristi is a little interesting. All right, so I'm going to just come in, bend in, press your feet away from each other. Whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa, 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 whoa. Let's come into exalted warrior first this time. Oh, I'm very tight. Whoa. So you can do whoa, 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 whoa here or whoops. I'm going to do whoops this time. Whoa. 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 Then I'm going to come out. I'm going to reach to the wall. I'm going to come down. I prefer to have my foot against the wall. I'm much more stable. And then we're going to do 3 swings. Whoa. 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 And then I'm going to press into my foot. Come up. Come here. Going to hang over. Everybody's favorite pose. While I'm down here, I'm going to do some high notes. So interestingly, hanging over, high notes feel really good. Any kind of arch, low notes feel really good. So since we're hanging over, do some high notes. Just like ooey, ooey, ooey. Then, gonna put your hands on your waist, come up with a flat back. Press into your feet, come up with a flat back. Rolling up the back is a great exercise, rolling up, but it's not always good for people with lumbar issues or any sort of disc or back issues. I have a lumbar issue, so I don't do that anymore. I hope that was fun. How do you guys feel now? Hope everybody feels good. Okay, we're going to do some of my favorite poses. All right, now, chair pose. But this, we are going to do with the wall. And if anybody's there, I see Ji-Sean. You have your husband there with you? I'm going to have him help you with this because this is an amazing pose. So you guys are going to go into, you're going to go up against the wall, and we're all going to do this. We're all going to come up, and first you're going to come back to the wall and reach your butt cheeks kind of up because we tend to hold tension in the bum. So reach the bum up some. And then slide down into chair pose, which is like you're going to bend in a chair. And for this pose, then you're going to, we bring our arms up, right? So we come down, we bring our arms up, and you're going to press your bum in, everybody, and make a low whoas. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Whoa, whoa.
But what I want you to do, Ji-Sean, with your husband, is who's going to go? The husband's on the wall? Oh, no, Ji-Sean's on the wall. Okay. Come against the wall. Come in the pose. I'm going to highlight her. So can I highlight you for a minute? Because this is some of the work that I do. I'm going to pin you guys. Okay, so come down. Walk your feet a little away from the wall. Yeah, a little more. Okay, now slide down. And now your husband's going to come and take your arms. So you reach your arms out. You hold on to his arms, and you're going to press your bum in the wall into the wall and come down. Come down more with your body. No, I'm sorry. Keep your bum where you were. Just with your upper body, come down. Yeah, keep your head aligned with your spine. Stay there, and gently. You're going to make sound, wah, start making sound, and then you gently pull on her. So, and she's going to try to keep her bum against the wall. So pull on her hard enough So the bum almost comes off the wall. Yeah, yeah. And then she gets a really nice stretch through her thoracic cavity while making sound. And then come up slowly. Now ultimately, when I do this in a class, I have 3 people on one person. I'll have a person holding one hip against the wall, and then another person holding another hip against the wall. And you actually get your whole torso just completely stretched open. So it's super, super fun, but it's even nice that way. Didn't that feel good? Did you like that? Yeah. It's a bunch of exercises like that, where we help each other stretch open our bodies. Yes. Okay, so that is the version. I'm going to unspotlight you.
I thought you were leading with her. Are you not leading with her? I'll keep with it. Oh,
Okay, so that is a assisted chair. Otherwise, it's the same thing of just getting some sound down to here, to our bum, right? Let's see, I want to leave some time for. Since we're talking about bums right now, let's go into Malasana, into a squat pose. Now, different people have different abilities to squat. There's things you can do. It's very nice to have something to put under your heels if you can't squat down easily like this. I have a yoga mat under my heels, so that makes that very easy. Also, you can have something that's higher. I'm not going to do it on my, this is my harmonium, so I won't do it on my harmonium, but if you have something higher, you can actually have somebody sit on it, right? They can sit on something just to get used to squatting, because squatting is not comfortable for everyone. I was raised in the South Pacific as a kid, so squatting was something quite comfortable, although as I know, if you don't keep squatting, you lose stability. So I'm down here in my squat, and whatever squat you're in, everybody, even if you're just assisting yourself and it's like this, what I guys want you to notice is the breath. So if you're in squat, where does your breathing go? It goes very deep in the body, right? The whole back opens up. The buttocks usually stretch because we're sensing movement. All of this movement is coming from the diaphragm lowering. And as the diaphragm lowers, it actually stretches parts of our body. And in this pose, this is my favorite pose for low notes, like the chair. And if you do a low note, or let's say you sing the blues, you're a blues singer. Oh, summertime, and the living is easy. Oh, if I want my voice to be really low and deep sounding, I sing in this pose. And I do it with my students, and they all find the depth in their voice. The breath feels so deep that it affects the way we actually use our voice. And I can sense a lot of vibration in my body that way. Yeah, do come out if this is not comfortable. something that I love about this pose is I was talking about the pelvic floor. Now, as being a former opera singer, the pelvic floor is used in opera a lot, which we wouldn't even think about. But in opera, to hit high notes, what we'll do is we'll actually consciously lift the pelvic floor. So if I want to say, I'm going to say whoop. I use whoops a lot because they are from speech therapy and the vocal apparatus just always works excellently with them. So if I want to lift my pelvic floor to hit a high note, if I lift my pelvic floor, I'm going to go whoop, 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 whoop. I'm going to hit an opera tone. That's how we actually do it in opera. We do it from the pelvic floor. Woo! And nobody has any idea that we're doing that. But it's super, super fun to play with. It exerts, when we lift the pelvic floor that way, it exerts such a strong force against this diaphragm that the breath is shot from the lungs up to the vocal cords and out the resonators really fast. So that's a super, super fun exercise. One of my favorites. And then let's see, well, after Malasana, let's do a psoas stretch. So wait, and we're only going to do 2 more and then I'm going to have questions. I have 32 exercises that I've created, and that's just yoga exercises with sound. My dad was a yogi who spent 17 years involved with an ashram in India, and he was a yoga teacher. So I started playing with yoga and sound, really starting around 14. So I was a singer and a little yogi person. So let's see, the psoas is really important. And there are different ways to stretch the psoas. And we all have different relationships to our psoas. I mentioned that the psoas is a muscle fight or flight. And for me, I really feel my psoas shrink when I'm tense. I can feel it now. So I do a lot of psoas openers. So one that's quite nice is just to come on the mat, rest, come on your side, rest your head on your arm, and then you take the back of your foot and you reach your foot away from you and push your foot into your hand. And this is whatever is comfortable because it can be quite intense. And the sound that really helps the psoas is groaning or moaning, whatever sound you would make if you were really sore, and put it right into the psoas muscle. Oh, 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 or some nice low woes. Whoa, 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 whoa. That pushing your foot in your hand is what really helps. Do the other side on the floor right now. And then I will set up for the beastly psoas yoga stretch, which if you have a psoas that is not that tight, this would be the exercise for you. So you would come up against the wall. And you come back towards the wall, and then you're going to put one foot bent, and then you're going to take your back foot This is hard to get into. Actually, I'm gonna start this way, on my knees. I haven't done this one in a while, and then I'm gonna take my back foot. I'm coming up the wall like this, but I'm not. I'm gonna pull it there. And then I'm going to bring my foot around this way. And then I'm going to come up. And it's quite an intense stretch. Sometimes we even turn our feet under too. I'm turning my foot under. And that could be enough right there. That's a huge stretch. But now that I've been in it a while, oh, this is a huge stretch. That's not enough for you though. You can lift your arm up, your left arm up. And then, if that's not enough, reach your body over to the side. But I'm going to stay, I'm not going to do that because I haven't done these in a while. And now I'm going to make sound. Ow, like you're moaning. Whoa. And there's a Greek lament that I love, which is oi, toi, toi, which is great to do in this pose, lament. Oi, toi, toi, oi, toi, toi, oi, toi, toi. And then come out. Whew. That's a strong one. I'm going to do the other side against the wall for balance. I don't think I'll go quite as close to the wall this time. This is my tighter side. This way or this way. I think I'll put my foot this way. Oh, I already stretched this side on the ground, so it's not as tight, but I feel it. Should feel it all here, right? And lament, oi, toi, toi. And when you lament, lament any feelings you have. When do we get to lament? Lamenting is fabulous. Oi, toi, toi. Oi, toi, toi. Oi, toi, toi. Oi, toi, toi. And then come out slowly. Come up. And we're just going to shake everything. Ah, 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 ah. Osho, the yoga avatar, does a lot of he did a lot of shaking exercises. And then I'll usually end, if I do a class, I love to end in tree pose. Or I might start a class in tree pose. When I was a teacher at USC, University of Southern California, all my students, they said that their big problem is they couldn't focus. And for tree pose, so we did tree pose at the beginning of class every time, because with tree pose, you have to find what's called a dristi, which is a focus point. So you've got to find that point. And then you have to bring your, I'm going to hold on to something right now. So you can hold on to something. None of this work has to be perfect, right? I will have them actually start holding on to something, but the thing that I had them learn was to find a dristi and really focus. and then be able to balance. Without a drishti, it's very difficult to balance. Now, why I said you can hold on to something, because we want to play with our voice. So when you press this foot into this thigh, you will discover that it actually engages the pelvic floor. So we're talking about that. So this is really fun. First up, just to try some whoa, whoa, pressing in and whoa, you press your hips together. Then you relax them for breath, so the breath can drop deep. Whoa. And to actually balance, you hold this together, so it's quite interesting that holding there. What I often do, I'm going to use this as if it's a wall. I will have students do this against a wall. So I'm going to do the other side, and I'll use the chair, because the reason is I want them to play with their voices. So these are voice exercises with yoga. So I'm just going to lean against the chair. And then, which is not very stable for some reason. My old rickety chairs. I'm going to lean against the chair. I'm going to hold on to it since it's so rickety. And then the next thing we want to do is we get them to engage some whoops, but then get the arms up. Whoa. And then they'll feel the whole rib cage. Whoa. As well as, yeah, like Lulu's doing there. Feel the whole rib cage. Whoa. 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 And it's super, super fun. Do both legs. And then what I do is, if any of you teach classes, I have my students all link arms. And then they have to do tree pose and link arms. And first they have to all in tree pose, whether they're here, below their knee or above their knee. You never want to be on your knee. They have to all as a group find their balance, which is really great because that's community. They have to create community to all find each other. And then once they have it, then they sing. And I have something that I do that's called Om Choir, where I have this particular group I'm thinking of is at Mount St. Mary's College, and they're all singers. It's the choir, and I work for them a few times a year doing vocal yoga. And so they all hold arms, and then we Om, but we Om in harmonies. And I have a group that's called Om Choir, where we all Om in harmonies, and it's really, really magical. Om, we know, is the primordial perfect sound. It is the sound of the cosmos. And then doing it in harmonies. And we do it for quite a while. We'll Om, like we'll hold an Om for 5 minutes. We'll have everybody Oming for 5 minutes. And it's really, really, really nice. So that's a little tidbit of what I do. There's so many exercises. There's partner exercises. And why I wanted to do this class was, so my work is known in the theater world because I am a certified theater teacher and I am a certified singing teacher. But my vocal yoga is known in the theater world, but it's not really known outside the theater world. And I really created it for my own health and healing. I'm a 2-time cancer survivor, and I had lymphoma as a young person, and all the sounding and singing healed me. And I had a very, very serious case of cancer I wasn't necessarily going to survive, but I did. And the doctor said I would have all these organ problems. And I said, I don't believe that. And so I just started singing and sounding and doing yoga and putting it all together. And I am super, super healthy now, super healthy. They didn't even know how I got so healthy. I was supposed to have a bone marrow transplant, and I knew that would just be so hard on my body. So I just started doing this work, and I got so healthy, the doctor said, we don't see any reason to give you a bone marrow transplant. No reason. So I wanted to share this work. My life is about service. My philosophy of life is yoga. And I want to share my book. This is my first book. Some of the things that we did are in here. I don't know if it's backwards, focal yoga. These were all made for students. Students bugged me. Oh my God, will you write all those exercises down? So this became all the exercises, 242 pages of exercises, of cool exercises. And then my voice exercises that I do, I created 44 singing exercises for anybody who sings. This is $9 on Amazon. I mean, you can't beat it. And I have a breathing CD that I created as well. They're all on Amazon. This is now on Amazon Music. It used to be next to my book, and I'm trying to rectify that, but you can imagine how many people you have to talk to at Amazon to get something rectified like that. If anybody wants to come on camera, I would love to answer some questions. I know some of you. Constance, are you still here? Well, some people maybe had to drop off. But I'd love to answer some questions. You must have some questions. Nobody has any questions? Steve, do you have a question? Yes, please unmute yourself. Do you know how to unmute? Oh, no, you're still muted. You have to go on your little, if you go to your picture, you can should be able to unmute where it says mute. Or you can go to the little audio. Oh, there, talk there. Yeah, that shows you as unmuted. Oh, wow, that's so weird. Your name is unmuted, but your little, in the corner, it says you're muted. Well, why don't we let you play with that for a minute, and then I'll answer another question and we'll come back. Yes, hi, Jennifer.
So when you say that the voice is resonant, how would you describe that?
Okay, so resonance is tone, basically our tone, and we've got actual vibrations within the head, which how all the sound waves couple within the head, which boost which. That is actual direct vibration in the head. And then we have sympathetic vibrations throughout the body. And interestingly enough, different poses actually result in us using our actual vocal cord, the space above the vocal cords differently. Because the main space that's responsible for our tones is a tube right above the vocal cords. And so I can talk, like if I talk like this, it's not very resonant, right? It's too much breath coming through. And then I can really up my, like if I do the mio, 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 om, and then if I keep that tone and I talk, that's considered more resonant.
Mhm. Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does, maybe more of feeling the fullness in your body in
Mhm.
relationship to your voice.
Yeah, feeling the fullness in your body of literally affects how we use the vocal cords in the area above them, which is really interesting. Yeah, it's fascinating. It's kind of my big interest actually, and certain things are being discovered. Like they just discovered that music and movement helps the voice. So if you're a singer, are you a singer, Jennifer?
I am.
I am, yeah. So, you know, as singers, we like to go, woo, woo, ah, arm movements and things when we do stuff. They're just now discovering that that movement actually really does help the voice. And singers have known that forever. We've done that.
Mhm.
It's always nicer to warm up with some movement. And then that gives you, in a way, the imagination of the movement so that when you go to sing, you can move your air.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's really fascinating to me that a lot of things that they're starting to actually discover.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Who else? Steve, you worked it out yet? He's good. Look at, he's working so hard. He's got his, I know he's got the computer, everything open, checking it out. Yes, Elia?
You mentioned a somatic practitioner, and I didn't write it down.
Oh, yeah.
Stephen Borges?
Borges?
Borges.
There's a lot of them. Let me make sure I've got the right one.
Okay. Just how do you spell it? If you could spell it for me, that'd be helpful. Thank you.
Oh, sure. PORG. Well, that, okay. Somatic experiencing is actually Peter Levine, Levine. And his new book is The Autobiography of a Trauma. Wait, hey, I've earned a free ebook. Okay. But what is it? Oh my God. All right. The Autobiography of a Trauma. But his most famous one has a tiger on it. That's Peter Levine.
Mhm.
He's amazing. In my work, I'm a Fitzmaurice voice work teacher. It's a theater type of voice work. That's a somatic voice work for actors. And we are all study somatic experiencing. I was trying to find his books. Here we go. The one that I really recommend.
Yeah, there's the Waking the Tiger.
Yes, Awakening.
Who's Stephen then that you mentioned? The other
And
name.
Stephen Porges.
Mhm. Okay.
Waking the Tiger, Peter Levine. Stephen Porges, Porges. He's the one that's responsible for polyvagal theory. And he's the one that did all the research on that, which is, polyvagal theory, which is very interesting. The idea of And then the idea of how we can soothe the vagus nerve and thereby soothing the vagus nerve, calm trauma within the body. Like if you're feeling really nervous, one of the best things is just putting your hand on the right side of your neck. If you just put your hand on the right side of your neck, it calms the vagus nerve. And then humming. Humming calms the vagus nerve, and not only does it calm the vagus nerve, humming also activates nitric oxide in your sinus cavity. And what's so fascinating about that is that in India, in yoga, they knew that years and years ago. They always talk about only activate the sinus cavity when you make sound. Activate the sinus cavity when you make sound and you hum, and only breathe in through the nose, right? They say the mouth is for eating, the nose is for breathing. And the reason why I discovered is that we have nerve endings up in here in the olfactory bulbs. The olfactory bulbs are the part of your sinus system, really, that's up here. And these olfactory bulbs, they have the shortest nerves that go through your ethmoid skull into the endorphin centers of the brain. So breathing through the nose, and then if you hum through the nose, humming through the nose, what it does is it activates endorphins and then also releases these olfactory bulbs get nitric oxide to be released. So they knew what they were talking about. That's been a big project of mine, is finding out all the yoga, how yoga relates to the voice and how much they both sync up. Certain things they'll say in yoga, and I'll do my voice research and I'll find out, like, oh, the factory bulbs, they knew that. So it's quite interesting. I do have a teacher certification coming up that I have to mention. I have 70 certified teachers around the world of this work. It's a really awesome, intense 8 days. And well, there's a 9th day actually afterwards that we meet. And different kinds of teachers. I've got yoga teachers that use my work. I have voice teachers that use it, especially for group classes or even one-on-one. Like each posture also affects something that a student may need in their voice. But a lot of people right now, a lot of people doing work with voices, and people want to free their voices. And I have just so many exercises about freeing the voice. And my teacher certification is July 20th through July 28th. And I have university professors, bunch of universities where they teach my work. Loyola Marymount, one of the people that teaches there as a student. University of Florida, all over the place, University of Minnesota, London. I have a bunch of Shakespeare teachers that teach my work. I have sound healers that teach my work. So I just wanted to let you guys all know about that. And Steve, did you get it going? No? You want to put it in the chat? You can put it in the chat. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Trying all my exercises. Oh, and I do a lot of classes. I've got online classes. Yes. Yes, please.
Me?
Yes.
So where is the teacher certification course? Where do you teach it?
It's actually live online.
Oh, okay.
Be actually live. My part 2 will be live, but it's live online. And it's no pre-recorded parts. It's literally live online. I have a yoga therapist. I have a pranayama expert who comes in. I have an osteopath, an acupuncturist. So I have some of the most amazing people that come in and teach with me. And yeah, it's live online.
What time during the day?
10 o'clock to 3 o'clock.
Whoa, okay.
I have a
And-
lot of people that are in Europe, so that's why it ends at 3.
And what's the cost?
It's $21.49, but anybody who took this class gets a 10% discount.
Okay. And when you teach these classes, what do you charge and how long is the class?
When I teach, you mean when I teach?
Vocal yoga, just like,
So a 3-hour class, because I usually start with some tremor work. We didn't have time to get into tremor work today, but I'll usually start with a tremor exercise. And then I find 2 hours to 3 hours. If it's, yeah, I mean, I always do, because we want to have some, I do some singing, sounding in it. You know, often I'll start with a group song, even if the people aren't singers. And then we'll end and they'll notice that their voices feel really different. And also they feel more expressive. So and then it just depends on where I am, what I charge. Probably not enough. I charge 49 to, I'd say, 79 a person, depending on where it is, depending on where it's offered. Sometimes I'll do like a retreat day, and then I'll do some somatic experiencing. I'll do some tremor work with the people. I'll do some vocal yoga. You can spread it. You can spread it out. And in the teacher certification, you learn so much that easily you can, very easily, you could do it like a whole retreat with what I give you. It is designed so you could walk out and be a practitioner. And I am always here, like it's really important to me to support all my teachers. So I'm always here if anybody has a question. I also take a group to India for a sound healing journey every January, because one of my best friends is one of the top sound healers actually in the world. He's from Austria and he has an incredible place in India where he makes all these sound healing instruments, many that you see people, because he exports them to the US. So a lot of things, like when you see people hanging chimes and things that they move, a lot of them came from him. The MP3, I do talk within it. And the singing exercises, and there is a, you don't need the book to use the audio, no. And I really like it. People, there's a bunch of churches that I gave some to where they use it for their choirs, for their warm-ups, which is really cool. I start with the whole head and neck and jaw releases like we did in this, and then I go into, there's some breathing exercises, and then I go into the core, waking up the core with sounds, and then I go into things like mio, mio, mio to wake up these resonators, the head and sinus area. Just really, by resonance, we're just getting those sound waves to really spin is what we're doing, Jennifer. Just interesting, getting them to spin. I did not know until I studied vocology about the sound waves all spinning in here, and that they went back to the source. I didn't know that. And I'd been an opera singer and a teacher and all of these things. And then I went to vocology school at the National Center of Voice and Speech in Utah. And it was really fun. You live in the dorms. It's all adults living in dorms for the summer. And you study with Ingo Tietze. And I wasn't aware of a lot of things, like that sound waves just bounced and went to the source and came back and went to the source. So that's why that holding the tissue over your mouth is so interesting, because so little of our voice really gets out. We don't really need to be opening our mouth often as big as we even think, which is interesting. And now, Jennifer, if you're a teacher, you've probably heard about semi-occluded vocal tract exercises. I don't know if you've heard of those. Semi-occluded vocal tract means you're blocking the sound so that these sound waves get massaged, lip buzzes. That's a semi-occluded, meaning blocked. It just sounds fancier with occluded, semi-occluded vocal tract exercise. Another one would be things like ooey, 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 anything where you don't let much sound out. V's, that's a semi-occluded exercise. Straw work is really huge now. By having a straw, your mouth is here, so it extends the vocal tract and creates a different air pressure that really massages your vocal cords. That's really huge now. And doing it in water, like a lot of my students, we all start class this way. Trying to keep the bubbles even so the air pressure is even. This is, big deal. All my students, Elia, she's got her straw. So I teach a class. I have a woman's class Wednesdays at 12 to 1:30 Pacific Standard Time right now. I have a women's class. Elia's in the women's class.
I could also recommend the MP3 for just it's super practical to use. So I listen to it in my headphones and walk around the house, and we'll do a couple exercises at a time. And I found Heather with post-COVID issues like breathing problems, nervous system problems, and I highly recommend all the exercises just for breathing and alignment. So my 2 cents.
Well, thank you, Elia. I appreciate that. Yeah, on my website, vocalyoga.com. It's supposed to be, oh, wait, come on. Oh, that went to Victoria Johnson directly. I don't know why. Meeting group. My alarm's gone off, which is a beautiful Indian song. There it is. That's my website, my Instagram. If anybody's on Instagram, is vocal yoga. Still, I don't want to cap it. I post little voice tips on Instagram if anybody's on Instagram. And my email is voice@vocalyoga.com. Feel free to ask me any questions. If you take my certification, then you are in the what we call the vocal yoga family. And we have meetups. We'll have Zoom meetups, and everybody is this wonderful, wonderful group of people. And I guess that's it. Steve, did you ask everything you wanted to ask? Okay, great. Yeah, so
Heather, I have a quick question.
please.
So if we have a daily yoga practice, would we just incorporate the sounds into, like, if I'm doing downward dog, I could just do the wolf and whatever sound I wanted to make? Is that how?
That's right. Yeah, I have a whole asana series that we do that has a whole flow sequence that has all the sounds to use. If somebody does a flow sequence, my friend Tara, who's a yoga therapist, she teaches that within the teacher certification. But yeah, you just add the sounds to your course. That the book with all the postures and sounds will be coming soon.
I was going to ask that. I was going to ask, when is that coming out? So.
I know. Writing a book is so hard. I'm on the part of it where there's no more actual writing to do, but it's the editing and just going through it. Yeah. So, which is the part I don't like as much. Oh, Jennifer, thank you so much for having my vocal yoga book. Yeah, the next one is all of these yoga poses and a whole lot more. I get more into the nervous system. This is a great book for you, though. You'll like it because I do have like straw exercises, and I've got, I have in here a vinyasa flow series with sound. Yeah, it's a mixture of voice technique and singing technique and yoga. And yeah, it's on Amazon, or you can download a digital copy off my website. Let's see. So thank you so much, everybody, for coming and doing all my things. And yeah, my friend Tara Gold, who's the yoga therapist, she's been teaching yoga for 20 years. And when she started adding sound to it, she said she can't do her yoga any other way. And the interesting thing is Krishnamacharya and the original yogis, they actually did use sound with yoga, which I didn't know they had. So there's a man here named Larry Payne, and I'm actually he has the sounds that they used, and he's going to give those to me, and I'm going to have that as a little chapter in my book of what sounds they used. So I'm super excited about that. So I took a class with him, and he was adding all these sounds, saying that, and he studied with these gurus in India, and he was telling me about the sounds, and I was just, oh my God, I'm so blown away. All right, everybody. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Lovely to have you all. Namaste. I'm going to end class. Everybody else there who is still there, namaste. The people in the black. How was that, Ellie? Was that fun?